Hello everyone, welcome to Latin American History. I am your instructor, Professor Salinas. This video is an introduction to the course. Over the next several minutes, I'll tell you a little bit about myself, how the course works, and then we'll start talking about Latin America. I arrived at UHD in 2015, and before coming here, I completed my PhD in Latin American History at the University of Texas at Austin. Latin America is a giant region, some 650 million people and 20 countries. And I'll go ahead and tell you now, it's impossible to know the region's entire history. It's just too vast and too deep to know for one person. So I studied all the countries as a graduate student, but I ended up focusing my research on early 20th century Mexico, and specifically the 1910 Mexican Revolution. And I'll tell you a little bit more about myself in the online personal introductions, but before moving any further, I want to tell you about how the course works. This is an online course, so I want you to go to Blackboard, which I know you're familiar with, and I want you to navigate the course page. And specifically, I want you to go to the left tab and click on Course Content. Course Content is where you will find the documents pertaining to the course, and specifically, you should have a look at the syllabus. Also, click on the left tab, Discussion. Every week you'll be going there making discussion posts. So here's how the course is going to work. Every week, to begin, I will upload 3 lecture videos, and you will be required to watch those. And the lecture videos, they cover the course content for the week. I recommend you take notes on the lectures. That material will help you understand the readings, and that material in the lectures could also appear in the midterm and the final exams. After you've viewed the lectures, you should do the assigned readings, and that'll be clear what the readings are, and I'll have reading questions for you to answer. And you will answer those reading questions in 2 online discussion posts every week. And all the online discussions, they'll be based on the readings. You'll be analyzing primary and secondary sources. So you'll make 2 discussion posts every week. You'll create 2 threads, and each post is required to be 150 words minimum. So you'll be writing about a page every week on Latin American history and analyzing primary and secondary sources. And that's how every week will operate. Video lectures, readings, discussion post. And let's make Tuesdays at 5 p.m. the new cycle of every week. So that's when I'll post the lecture videos, that's when the discussion posts will be due, and that's when the new week will begin. Tuesdays, 5 p.m. Let's get back to discussing Latin America. A good way to approach such a large region is to focus on the individual countries. And I mentioned earlier that Mexico is my country of expertise. That's what my research focuses on, specifically early 20th century Mexico. And the country that I know second best is Brazil and its history. Brazil, as you probably know, is the largest and most populous country in the region where they speak Portuguese. So the countries I know best, Mexico and Brazil, happen to be the 2 largest and most populous countries in the region, and I'll be discussing them a lot during the lectures. The country I know third best would be Cuba and its history. Cuba is the largest island in the Caribbean Sea, and Cuba is particularly fascinating because of its long history and tumultuous history with the United States, going back to the 1898 Spanish-American War and also the Cuban Revolution of 1959 when Fidel Castro took over the island. I want to talk about 3 more countries in Latin America, and specifically I want to present to you the textbooks that you are assigned in this course. Each one covers a country. The first is the Colombia Reader, which you see here. Colombia is a fascinating country because it's the 3rd largest in the region, behind Brazil and Mexico. And they say if there's one country in Latin America that encapsulates them all and is representative of the region, then it might be Colombia. And it's because Colombia is also very diverse. It has a history of European immigration, has a history of African slavery, and today it still has a small but significant indigenous population. Colombia also has a very diverse geography. It's in South America, but it also contains a border with the Caribbean Sea and also the Pacific Ocean. It also has the Andean Mountains and the Amazon forest. So Colombia is a really fascinating country we'll be learning about. The second textbook, and by the way, all these textbooks you can purchase at the UHD bookstore. None of them are terribly expensive, and you can also check them out at the library on 3-hour reserve. And the second textbook is, the Guatemala Reader, which you see here. Guatemala is a small country, and it's in Central America, but it also has a very fascinating history. Guatemala is significant for our course because today about 40% of Guatemalans are considered Maya Indians. And so Guatemala is a very indigenous country, and it will represent one of the several indigenous countries in Latin America that we'll examine in depth. And the third and final textbook here is the Dominican Republic Reader that you see. The Dominican Republic is in the Caribbean. As you know, it's on the island of Hispaniola, and it shares the island with the country of Haiti. So we'll read a little bit about Haiti in that book as well. And the Dominican Republic is significant for our course because in the early colonial period, the Dominican Republic had it was a slave society. It had a large population of Africans. And so we'll use the Dominican Republic as being a country representative of the African heritage in Latin America. And these three textbooks, they're all published by Duke University Press. I really like using them in my courses. They have lots of primary and secondary sources. Throughout this semester, you're going to be reading a lot of primary sources, historical documents. And I particularly like using them because they sharpen our analytical skills, and they also bring to life voices that you usually don't read about in history books. So you will be reading autobiographies of slaves, also interviews with domestic servants, and you'll also be reading famous people and their speeches and newspaper clippings and declassified CIA documents, etc., etc. So the next video I want you to watch is the syllabus review.